It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Suriname. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. This episode covers Suriname's players. And I'm wearing a Wales shirt. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, Suriname fans, but I don't have a Suriname shirt in my collection, though it is getting better. At least I have the colors, and this gives me an opportunity to wear the shirt of the country where I lived until I was 10 years old. So I'm happy to wear it. But hopefully next time we do Suriname, I'll have an actual Suriname shirt, but I'm approximating with the colors. Okay, just a note before we begin looking at Suriname, a note on where we're at in our mediacast. So Series 21 to 27 dealt with the World Cup 2026 qualifying. Series 21, for example, is covering the Asian region, and we actually did preview the preliminary round there. And we were hoping to do more previewing for World Cup 2026, but life got busy. Nevertheless, still have hopes of covering it, but now we will have to do it mostly through reviews. The past, present, and future media cast that we produced in spring of 2024 is still useful, mostly because it outlines the World Cup 2026 qualifying procedure for each region. And we will add a link to that media cast in the show notes. However, the dates that we were hoping to match or hoping to meet there didn't work out. So as I said, we'll look to do it through reviews. And we will come back to World Cup 2026 qualifying after our current focus, which is the 2025 Gold Cup here, and this episode on Suriname's players. We're doing this media cast in two parts. Part 1 here today is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period and take into account a couple of other factors to categorize players into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, or seemingly off the squad, or else retired and off the squad kind of permanently, it seems. And I should point out there that these are for making the squad. We're not going to talk about potential starters here. We'll do that in part 2. And here we will go into more detail on the players that we think are likely to reach the final squad, and less detail, perhaps even just the names of players we think unlikely to get there. Okay, so part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad is selected, and that'll probably be in early June. So at that time, we'll go back over the list we create today and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also try to predict starters there, also covering things like injuries and surprise selections. So this episode has 3 sections. Section 1, we're going to look at some general information on the team. Section 2 is the main part where we cover the main candidates in each position. And Section 3, we'll summarize and conclude, focusing on a couple of things like injuries to keep an eye on. Let's begin then with Section 1. And, well, we usually talk about retirements here. We don't really have many for Suriname because they've made so few tournaments. They did make the Gold Cup in 2021, and the only real name retiring after that is Ryan Donk, the central defender. He had actually only 12 caps for Suriname, but he was probably their biggest name. Or one of their biggest names over the years. Born in the Netherlands, like many of the Suriname players are, and captain of the team there in 2021. So he retired from the national team in 2022, so we will not see him here. Okay, next we'll move on to recent games. for Suriname and kind of outline what we're looking at in terms of participation of players, as well as positions and who has occupied positions on the field. So Suriname, we begin that with the 2023 Nations League group stage. So basically after the 2023 Gold Cup, which Suriname didn't participate in, the next set of games was the 2023-24 Nations League group stage. The group stage was in September and October 2023, and the finals were in November of that year. Suriname didn't make the finals in 2023-24 campaign, but they did in the 2024-25 campaign. We'll come to that shortly. Okay, next we have a friendly in March. Just a friendly there with Martinique, since they weren't involved in the finals of the Nations League that year. So just a single friendly covering actually the November and March games. So didn't play much during that period. In June comes the first round of qualifying and the first set of games for the 2026 World Cup. And those would be 2 games in June, and the following 2 games of that will be in June of 2025. So it hasn't happened yet. So they're just getting a start on things there in June of 2024 with 2 games. 2024-25 Nations League is the next thing up for Suriname. That's the group stage, again in September and October. And as I said, they did make it. And so they participated in the quarterfinals in November, playing against Canada. They lost that and were knocked out of the Nations League finals, but continued on because those Nations League games also were Gold Cup qualifying games. So the quarterfinal of the Nations League in November 2024 and the Gold Cup qualifying games against Martinique, it was in March of 2025. Okay, we'll just add the manager situation here. So we'll talk about managers when we get to section 2, but we are going to point out here that the manager, Aaron Winter, departed after the 2023 Nations League group stage games. So he actually left in December of that year, so a couple of months after. And the new manager, Stanley Menzo, came in actually for his second stint shortly before the friendly with Martinique in March 2024. So that'll be significant because their selections and even formations are quite different. So we see kind of a market change in some things after those 2023 Nations League games in September and October. Okay, and then we'll come back to managers soon. The last order of business here is to talk about the formations in those games. And we won't go through them in excruciating detail. We'll just actually kind of summarize what we have. So after looking at all 14 games, we see they used a 4-2-3-1 formation in 8 of those games. So 57% of the games using that formation. And in fact, I should say, those were the last 4 games where they used those formations in the from September 2024 through those 4 Nations League group stage games, the November 2024 quarterfinal and the March 2025 Gold Cup qualifying, all with that same formation. So the manager seems to have settled on that. We saw quite a bit of experimentation before that, though, and 4 times they used a 4-4-2 formation. That was actually in the October games in 2023. And the June 2024 World Cup qualifying games, a 4-4-2 formation. So that is 28.5% of the games. Otherwise, just 2 games where they used a different formation. And we won't go into detail on those, but we'll bring them up as we go through the podcast. But a couple of comments then at the end. Again, the 4-4-2 formation used toward the beginning in 4 of the first 6 games, and the 4-2-3-1 formation, which is now favored, used in the last 8 games. And you can see in that it's almost always 4 at the back. In fact, only 1 out of the 14 games did they use a 3-man central defense there. That was in the first game, and again, we may refer to that as we go. Okay, the last order of business here. I think I promised the last order of business was this, but it's not. It's an upcoming game. So they have 2 games before the Gold Cup there, and these are not warm-up friendlies. These are World Cup 2026 qualifiers. So the 3rd and 4th game of that first round of CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. And in the first, on June 9th, they'll be playing away in El Salvador. And the second, they'll be playing at home to Puerto Rico. So those games will act as warm-up games for this tournament. All right, that is it for Section 1. Let's move on to Section 2. Section 2, our main order of business, where we look at the players. Here we begin with the manager. So let's begin with current manager Stanley Menzo. And you'll see if you're watching the YouTube version of this that his name is in light grey, and that means he has no tournament experience. We'll come back and give a little detail on him since he's the current manager. And then we have the outgoing manager there, Aaron Winter. And you'll see his name is in grey as a player, darker grey as a player, because he's a retired player. And he has had no experience as a manager in a tournament either. And finally, we have, we'll just touch on the manager for the 2021 Gold Cup campaign, Dean Gore. So you'll see his name is in black because he does have experience and he is still active as a manager. Okay, let's go back. So, well, the only one we'll give biographical information on is Stanley Menzo. So he played for the Netherlands, but only 6 caps for the Netherlands. And he became quite an experienced manager. Actually, this is his 2nd stint with Suriname. He was the manager for the first time in 2022. That'll come up in the narrative, but we're not really sure why he was let go that time. Anyway, in January 2024, he started his 2nd stint as manager. He also managed the Aruba national team. Of course, didn't get to any tournaments with them, and has otherwise managed teams, club teams, all over the place, really, in Belgium and the Netherlands, of course. He was born in Suriname, actually, but Suriname has a lot of connections with the Netherlands. But he also managed teams in South Africa and China. Stanley Menzo. And then we'll give a little bio on Aaron Winter because he's such a famous player for the Netherlands from 1987 to 2000, 84 caps and 6 goals for the Netherlands, and participated in many tournaments from Euro 1988 all the way to Euro 2000, never missing a tournament in between. So Aaron Winter, a well-known player, if not a manager. Dean Gore, well, we won't give any bio information on him other than to say he is from Suriname, so a local manager there. Let's go to the narrative or the recent history of these 3 managers. So we begin with Dean Gore, who led them through their only ever Gold Cup qualification in 2021. They actually had qualified for the regional tournament in 1985. That was before the Gold Cup became the tournament. So they qualified for 2 regional tournaments in the deep past there. Despite a respectable performance in 2021, Gore was released after the tournament in July of 2021. He was replaced by Stanley Menzo in January of 2022. But for whatever reason, he seems to have been a temporary manager, and he left in August of 2022. He was replaced by Aaron Winter in September 2023, who was initially listed as a caretaker manager, but became the official manager in March of 2023. And I think I made a mistake there. He came in September 2022 and became official manager in March 2023. Winter failed to reach the next Gold Cup, but that wasn't a firing offence, so he stayed on to guide them through the 2023 Nations League group stage. He was released in December of 2023, and Stanley Menzo came back in, although not until March of 2024. So we do see a kind of a gap between these managers where they have no manager at all, but usually in those gaps they have no games either. So Stanley Menzo has managed them through the first steps of World Cup 2026 qualification, through the successful Nations League 2024 group stage and quarterfinal there, and got them to this Gold Cup through those March 2025 playoffs. There we have the manager situation. So Stanley Menzo, likely to be the manager. I don't think they'd get rid of him at this point. Okay, let us move on to the players then, and we begin with goalkeepers, and we will just populate the list with the names first, and then give some biographical information on the more likely ones. First, we have definite candidate Werner Hahn. Two likely candidates in Etienne Weisem and Jonathan Funkel. And then two possible candidates in Isan Gort and Janilo Weigl. So let's take a look at these players, beginning with Werner Hahn. He is, okay, and I'm going to be a year off on players who were born between January and now. Today is May 5th. But I'll have to update those ages for part 2. But right now I just have the year. So he was born, he's 33 years old, Werner Hahn, and has 24 caps for the national team since 2021. So he hasn't been there that long. Hahn plays for Hammarby in Sweden, and that since 2024 was with Sanga, Kyoto Sanga in Japan before that, and has mostly played in the Netherlands before moving to Sweden. In 2022, he played for Göteborg in Sweden first, Göteborg. And he's born in the Netherlands, Werner Hahn, and he was the starting goalkeeper in the 2020 World Cup, 2021 Gold Cup. Oh my God, my mouth is just taking control and going to places I don't know. He was a starting keeper in the 2021 Gold Cup. Since that time, he has started 10 of their 17 games. No, that's actually from the start of 2023. And he was on the bench for 4 and not selected for 3 others. So Werner Hahn, a definite candidate here. Let's move on to the 2 likely candidates. So we begin with Etienne Weisem, and he is 30 years old and just 6 caps for the national team since 2024, so came late to the squad. He plays for Groningen in Netherlands since 2024 and was born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap in June of 2024 and started 6 of their remaining 10 games up until this time, and was on the bench for 1, not selected for 3 others, including the last 2 matches. So a bit of a strike against him. We're going to see they did make changes, some odd changes for those March games, which makes it difficult for us to predict who the starters are going to be, or it will make it difficult in part 2 because we're just looking at their likelihood of making the squad here. Anyway, he's the first likely candidate. The second is Jonathan Funkel. He's very young, 20 years old, no caps for Suriname, and he plays in Suriname for Robin Hood, probably their biggest team there. And he got his first appearance on the bench in October 2023, so he's been around for a little while here, didn't start any of their remaining 13 games, but was on the bench for 12 of them and not selected for one other. So almost a definite candidate there in Jonathan Bunkel. Just we moved him down to likely probably because he's never been selected to start a game. The first of the two possible candidates is Isan Court, and he is 25 years old with one cap for the national team since 2021. He plays in Bulgaria for a team I'm not familiar with called Hebar, and he was with another team I'm not familiar with, B1 in Lithuania, and he was in the Netherlands before that. But he wasn't actually born in the Netherlands. He was born in Netherlands Antilles. He was part of the squad for the 2021 Gold Cup. He was on the roster, but didn't see any action there. And over the last period, he has started none of their 17 games. He was on the bench for 7, but not selected for 10, including the last 2 matches. So, yeah, it looks like he's in competition there to make this tournament. Finally, we have Janilo Weigel, or Vigo. He is also 20 years old, just like Fonkel, and like Fonkel has no caps for the national team. He plays for Young Westerlo in the Netherlands since 2024. He got his first appearance on the bench in March of 2024, so a year ago, and didn't start any of their remaining 11 games, but was on the bench for 3, including the last 2 matches, and not selected for 8 of the matches. So making a bid to be a backup keeper is Janilo Weigel. Okay, so those are the candidates. Let's take a look at the summary of player positions. And for this, we go back to the fall of 2023, so after the Gold Cup. And I did actually check that the player histories or their recent participation does go back to the beginning of 2023. So we're starting a little bit later in the narrative here. Warner Hand started all of the 2023 Nations League group stage games in the fall of 2023 there. But under the new manager, Etienne Vason played the World Cup qualifying games in June 2024. Those two, Hahn and Vason, shared the 2024 Nations League games in September and October of 2024, each of them playing 2 matches. And then in the quarterfinal against Canada in November, it was Vason selected for both games, but then Hahn selected for the 2 Gold Cup qualifiers in March of that year. So hard to say. We're not really talking about starters there, but it looks like alternating between the 2. So hard to predict who would be the starter there, but that's not our business here. So those are the candidates. Let's move on to defenders. We do have a category for versatile defenders, and truly Suriname has them, but we're not going to put any players in this category this time around. We'll move on straight to central defense. So before we begin, let's talk a little bit about the position of central defense. We saw in section 1, it's almost always a back 4, so a 2-line central, 2 players in the central defense. Only in the first of the 14 games did they use a 3-man central defense. Okay, let's look at the candidates, and we have a definite candidate in Shaquille Pinas, and several, 2 likely candidates, I should say. Mienti Abina is the first one, and the second is Stefano Denswil. We also had Dion Malone. He's coded as a central defender, but we moved him to defensive midfield because he's been playing there exclusively and doesn't come up in the narrative here. We have a possible but unlikely candidate, and players at this level or lower, I'm going to dispense with any pertinent biographical information as I list them. Sorry, my mouth is not working today. Anyway, Belfour was not selected for the last 8 matches, so we'll give more information if he is selected for the final squad. And then the player we talked about in section 1 as seemingly off the squad, Ryan Donk, and last appeared in 2022 for the national team. Let's go back and look at the candidates, a bit of biographical information, beginning with the definite candidate, Shaquille Pinas. So he is 27 years old and has 24 caps and 3 goals for the national team. So 3 goals, pretty good for a central defender there. And he has been with Suriname since 2021. He also plays for Hammarby in Sweden, so is a teammate of goalkeeper Warner Hahn there, and he's been there since 2022. He's also played in Bulgaria, but again, he's born in the Netherlands and mostly played in the Netherlands before moving to Bulgaria in 2021. He was not part of the Gold Cup 2021 squad, actually a bit of a surprise that he wasn't selected, didn't make the final cut from the 36-man preliminary squad. So Shaquille Pinas, this would be his first tournament were he to make it, and he probably will, because he started 12 of their 17 games from the start of 2023, as well as subbing into 4 and on the bench for 1 other. So there is no game that he wasn't selected for. Again, a surprise that he didn't make the previous cup. Okay, though that is the definite candidate, Shaquille Pinas, and 2 likely candidates. The first is Mienti Abina, and he is 31 years old with 22 caps and 1 goal for Suriname. He's been with the team since 2021. So see, a lot of these players are latecomers to the team. Abina was also, I'll give his club. So he's with Spartak Moscow in Russia since 2024. And then with Ferencvárosi in Hungary, probably the biggest team in Hungary there. Used to be called Steaua Bucharest. I'm not sure if, oh my God. Anyway, I will go on. He's also played in Slovakia and in the Netherlands as well. So Abina started 14 of their 17 games from the start of 2023 and was on the bench for 1 and not selected for 2 matches. But those were the last 2 matches. So that gave us a little bit of doubt because there are many changes underway in that, especially the last match. So we're not sure, but we still think he's a likely candidate, Mienti Abina. Okay, the other likely candidate is Stefano Denswil. He is 32 years old with 10 caps for the national team since 2023, so another latecomer. And the club affiliations are pretty good here. He's with Trabzonspor in Turkey since 2022 and with Bologna in Italy before that, a product of the Ajax youth club in the Netherlands there, where he was born. So Denswil got his first appearance on the bench in June of 2023, but started 10 of their remaining 16 games. And he was on the bench for 2, injured for 2, and also, like Abina, not selected for the last 2 matches. So a seed of doubt in there for us. But we can see from his bio and from many others, the latecomers, that they're kind of scouring the citizenship files, especially in the Netherlands, to find players who are eligible for Suriname, as many of the Caribbean teams are doing, although Suriname is part of the South American mainland, not necessarily a Caribbean team. Okay, next, we have the possible but unlikely and below, but we've dealt with them. So here are our 3 players. That is not many central defenders, Shaquille Pinas, and the likely candidates Abina and Denswil. And we're going to see these players actually also play in the midfield. So let's talk about a summary of the players. So in the very first game, the three-man central defense, first game of the 2023 Nations League group stage, that was Stefano Denswil in the middle, Shaquille Pinas on the left, and Mienti Abina on the right. Denswil and Abina were the two-man pairing for the rest of those games, and indeed continued until the second game of the 2024 Nations League group stage in September of 2024. So that pairing of Denswil and Abina went on for quite a while. We're going to see that Pinas was on the team, but not in the central defense. However, in those fall 2024 Nations League group stage games, we see Pinas replacing Denswil and Abina partnering him twice. And then we see right defender Liam Val Gelderen getting a start in the central defense. Denswil and Abina paired up once again for the Nations League quarterfinal games against Canada, but it is Shaquille Pinas and a partner for the March Gold Cup playoff games against Martinique. In the first game, Pinas with Van Gelderen again, and in the second, we have central defender Dion Malone in his only game playing in his coded position as a central defender. So there and elsewhere, we'll see a lot of change-ups in those last two games, making us uncertain as to what to expect in the Gold Cup. Okay, that is the central defense, and we move on to left backs. So once again, excuse me, I got a cough. Once again, we'll say that only in one game did they use a three-man central defense. So we always have a left back playing in the left back position. In that first game, the right and left back pushed up to become right and left wingers. Let's look at the candidates, and we have two definite candidates here. The first, Ridciano Haps as a definite candidate, and then Javencio Vanderkost as also a definite candidate. We have actually a third definite candidate, Kenneth Powell, who's coded as a left back, but we've moved him to defensive midfield because that's where he's primarily been playing. Kenneth Powell is a very versatile player. So only the two candidates to look at here, and both of them are at the definite level. That's because we'll see they also get starts in out of position positions. Okay, Ridciano Haps then. Let's give a little bio of him. He's 32 years old, so we can see a bit of an aging team here. Haps has 21 caps and 2 goals since 2021, so also a latecomer. He plays for Venezia in Italy, or yes, he is back with them. He had been on loan to Genoa in Italy, but is back with Venezia. And prior to that, he played for Feyenoord in the Netherlands and other teams in the Netherlands because he also is born there. He was part of the 2021 Gold Cup squad. He was a starter, started and finished all games there. And he has since the beginning of 2023, started 11 of their 17 games and was subbed in for one, on the bench for one. He had been injured for the first 3, and then just one match that Haps was not selected for. So Ridciano Haps, a definite candidate. The second one is Javencio Vanderkost, and he is much younger. He's 24 years old. With 12 caps and 2 goals since 2023. Vanderkost plays for Sparta Rotterdam in the Netherlands, but he is on loan to Beerschot in Belgium since 2025. Otherwise, he's been with teams in Netherlands since his youth. Van der Kust got his first cap in October of 2023. He started 8 of their remaining 13 games, as well as subbing in for 4 and on the bench for 1 other. So he is always selected, Van der Kust, and that's why we have him as a definite candidate for selection. All right, those are the candidates. Let's take a look at the position. As I said, in the first game, the left back position becomes a left winger because of the formation, the 3-2-2-2-1. That is in the fall of 2023, September 2023, and it's Kenneth Powell, coded as a left back, but we'll meet him as a defensive midfielder. He's the one pushing up and playing the left wing in that game. From now on, though, it's a left back position, and it's central defender Shaquille Pinas in the second game, and then Regiciano Haps comes into play. Haps continues for the first of the June 2024 World Cup qualifying games, and then Van der Kust, Gervincio Van der Kust gets an easy debut in the second game there. That was against Anguilla, which is a fairly weak team. So perhaps that's why they started a new player in that game. But however, Van der Kust gets the first game of the 2024 Nations League group stage in September of 2024. Then Haps starts the other 3 and also plays all the November and November 2024 and March 2025 games. So Haps pretty ensconced in the position there, although Van der Kust seems to get some games. Okay, that is the left back position, and we move over to the right back position and begin here by summarizing anything we have to say about the position was said when we talked about the left back position. So let's go straight to the candidates, and we have no definite candidate here, but 2 likely ones. The first, Fernie Dijksteel, and the second, a player we've mentioned, Liam van Gelderen, who played in central defence, came up in our central defence narrative. We have a possible candidate in Navajo backboard. And then possible but unlikely players. The first, Sean Claber. So he was part of the Gold Cup 2021 squad, but last appeared in September. No, he last appeared in the Gold Cup, although he was on the preliminary roster for their squad in September 2024, but seems to be off the squad. Also, a veteran from the 2021 Gold Cup, Demil Dankerliu, also possible but unlikely candidate. He last appeared for the national team in March of 2024. And we also have a player, Kelvin Leerdam, who's coded as a right back, but we moved him to the midfield because he played only in the midfield during this period. So we'll come to him a bit later. Let's look at the main candidates, though, beginning with likely candidate Fernie Dijksteel. And he is 26 years old and has 9 caps for Suriname since 2023. He plays for Middlesbrough in England and also was with Middlesbrough since 2019, so he's been with them for quite a while. He was born in the Netherlands, but he got his first cap for Suriname in March of 2023 and started 6 of their remaining 17 games and subbed in for 3 and was on the bench for 2. There were 6 matches he was not selected for, but those include the last 2 matches. So again, those March 2025 games kind of confusing the issue and probably moving Dijksteel down a notch here. The other candidate is Liam van Gelderen, who is a likely candidate. He's 24 years old with 7 caps since 2024 for Suriname. He plays for Walwick in Netherlands since 2024 and Groningen before that, and also born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap, did Van Gelderen, in September of 2024 and started 6 of their remaining 8 games. Subbed in for 1 and on the bench, excuse me a sec, on the bench for the last match there. So Liam Van Gelderen, actually, we maybe should have put him ahead of Dijksteel because he seems slightly more likely. The possible candidate is Navajo Backboard, and he is 26 years old with 7 caps since 2023, and he plays for Waterford in England since 2025, so pretty small team there. He was with Heracles in the Netherlands for 5 years before that. He's also born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap for Suriname in June of 2023 and started 6 of their remaining 16 games. Subbed in for 1, but he was not selected for 9 matches, so we'll see him feature in the narrative in the early part, but not so much. Oh, no, I think he does show up recently, actually, but is selected only about half of the time. Let's move on to that narrative then. Who's filling the position of right back? And we go back to the fall of 2023, where Damil Dankoliu gets his last start for the team. The player pushing up to right wing on the right side in that 3-2-2-2-1 formation. After that, it's Navajo Backboard starting the other 3 games in the fall of 2023. Under the new manager, and Fernie Dijksteel comes in to play the June 2024 World Cup qualifying games. That brings us to September, and Dijksteel kind of continues, but the left back, Van der Koost, each play 2 games. So out of position, Van der Koost taking 2 games there. And Van der Koost continues to start the Nations League quarterfinal games against Canada. But again, March brings changes, and it's Backboard returning to play the last 2 games in March of 2025. So again, leaving us very confused as to who the starter might be there, but that's not our business in this media cast. So we move on to midfielders. So we have again a category of versatile midfielders with no one in it, so we'll get rid of that. But first I got to talk about the position. So the most outstanding feature here is that mostly players coded as defenders are playing in the position of midfielders. So we'll see a noticeable lack of midfield candidates on the team here. And actually, we have moved a couple of those defenders here if they play predominantly in the midfield. In terms of formation, once again, about 2/3 of the game, 64%, have a 2-man defensive midfield. 57% of those games are a 4-2-3-1 formation. However, they did use a 4-4-2 formation in 4 of the first 6 games. So that is 2 central midfielders, but I'll note it's usually players from this category rather than attacking midfielders in those positions. And then only once did they use a 4-3-3 formation with a left and a right midfielder. So not many players in those categories, and actually they were filled by out of position players anyway. Okay, let's move on then and talk about defensive midfielders, which I don't know what I was going to say. So the first candidate here is actually Kenneth Powell. He's coded as a left defender, and we did meet him playing as a left defender at least once, or a left winger really. He's a definite candidate here though. And also a defender, Dion Malone, whose name we've mentioned, is a likely candidate here in the defensive midfield. The possible candidate is Silvinho Esejas. and possible but unlikely Serginho Edward, so we'll dispense with him right away. Serginho Edward was a player in the 2021 Gold Cup. He only appeared in one game as a substitute there. Um, uh, he did not start any of their games over the period we're looking at, and was not selected for the last 6 matches. So slight chance of coming back in, but unlikely here. And Kelvin Leerdam is seemingly off the squad, although he does feature in the early narrative here. He was part of the Gold Cup 2021 squad. He started and finished all 3 games. We didn't put him in the kind of retired veteran categories because Leerdam only has 18 caps for the team, and he last appeared for the national team in October 2023. So he comes up at the beginning of the narrative, but now seems to be off the team. Let's go back and look at the candidates in a bit more detail, beginning with definite candidate Kenneth Powell. He's actually even more versatile than this, because one game he played as a right midfielder in that 4-3-3 formation. So coded as a left back, but we're going to find him all over the field, really. Kenneth Powell is 26 years old with 13 caps for the national team for Suriname since 2022. And he plays for Queen's Park Rangers in England since 2022. And in the Netherlands before that. He was born in the Netherlands, as many of the players were. Kenneth Powell got his first appearance in September 2022, so a little bit before the period we're looking at. And he started 11 of their 17 games from the start of 2023. He was subbed in for 1, injured for 1, and there were 4 matches that he was not selected for. Nevertheless, a definite candidate, Kenneth Powell. The likely candidate is Dion Malone, again coded as a central defender, but in this period he's played exclusively in the midfield. Kenneth Powell is 36 years old now, and he has 23 caps for the national team since 2021. So came to the Suriname team in his 30s already. He's currently with a team in Cyprus that I'm not that familiar with. It's Karmiotissa in Cyprus since 2022. So been playing with them for a few years. He also played in Azerbaijan, but mostly in the Netherlands. And he also was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup. I'm just checking his position there. He played as a right central defender in all 3 starts there. So I'm guessing they used a 3-man backline in all their games there. And over the recent period, Dion Malone has started 10 of their 17 games from the start of 2023. He was on the bench for 3 and not selected for 4. But as I said, playing in the midfield during this period. And finally, the possible candidate, Silvinho Esejas, is 23 years old and brand new to the national team here since 2025 with just 1 cap. And he is born in the Netherlands and plays for Volendam in the Netherlands. That's a recent move in 2025. He was with Den Haag in the Netherlands for 4 years before that. Esejas got his first appearance on the bench in September 2024 and didn't start any of the remaining 8 games, but he subbed in for the last one and was on the bench for 5 otherwise. So 2 matches that he was not selected for. And Silvinho Esejas is a possible candidate. Okay, let's go to the... No, we're not going to go to the summary because we're going to do defensive midfielders and central midfielders together. So let's look at the candidates there. And we have no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Renski Adipi. And we had a possible candidate in Justin Lonwick, but we moved him to central attacking midfield. So we'll talk about him a little bit later. Let's go then to the other possible candidate, Dorasso Class. And those are the only candidates here. So let's take a look at Renski Adipi. He is 26 years old with 6 caps since 2023 for Suriname. And he is born in Suriname and plays for another club there, Transvaal, since 2024. He played for Robin Hood before that. And he got his first appearance in November 2022, so just before the period we're looking at. And since the start of 2023 has started 2 of their games, 2 of their 17 matches, subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 9. The only matches that he was not selected for were the first 2 matches of the period. So consistently called up. Renski Adipi, though, rarely starts. The other candidate, Doraso Klaas, is 22 years old, 23 years old, I should say, with 6 caps for the national team since 2023. And he plays in Georgia with a team called Iberia 1999. That's a recent move in 2025 from Danes in Belgium, where he was in 2024. So Doraso Klaas was born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap in June of 2023, started 2 of their remaining 16 games, subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 2, but not selected for 8 matches. So half the matches he was not selected for, and he is a possible candidate. That's Doraso Klaas. Okay, those are the central midfielders. Now we can go back and look at both defensive and central midfielders in the narrative. So again, usually 2 players here. And we begin in September 2024 with the right back, or the player coded as a right back, Kelvin Leerdam, starting the first 3 games in the midfield, although they did prove to be his last appearances for the club. Kelvin Leerdam was partnered with defensive midfielder Renski Adipi, who we just introduced, in the first 2 games in September, and then central defender Dion Malone in the 3rd game. In the 4th game, it was Malone again partnering with Kenneth Powell, the ubiquitous left back, or player coded as a left back. Malone and Kenneth Powell in the 4th. And that was the last game under manager Aaron Winter. But those 2, Kenneth Powell and Malone, would continue together as a pairing in the midfield. The June 2024 World Cup games saw Powell this time partnered with, not with Malone here, Malone comes back, but partnered with attacking midfielder Emmanuel Ferry. Both of them playing as central midfielders in a 4-4-2 formation. And Ferry remained for the September 2024 Nations League group stage games, but Ferry had a different partner in both of those. We won't get into who they were, but we're going to say that it was Powell and Malone combining again in the 2 October games, just as they had a year ago. Central defender Malone returned for the November Nations League quarterfinal games against Canada, but here he was partnered with Shaquille Pinas, another central defender, so 2 central defenders in that 4-2-3-1 formation. That's both games in November. But in March, it was back to Powell and Malone for the first game, and then in the 2nd game, it was Powell partnering with central midfielder Doraso Klaas, both of them playing as defensive midfielders in the 4-2-3-1 formation. Doraso Klaas, one of the few players coded as a midfielder actually used in this narrative. So again, very much up in the air as to who we can expect in the Cup. Malone and Powell have been appearing in quite a few games, but there are other candidates to be considered as well. All right, that is it for defensive and central midfield. We move on to left midfield. Again, only 1 game used a 4-3-3 formation, and it was covered by one defender and one central midfielder, so out of position players. But we do have two candidates to mention who are coded as left midfielders, but they don't really feature in any of the narratives. The first one is Jaden Turfkruer, and he's a possible candidate. And the other is Yannick Wildshoot, and he is seemingly off the team. But I will just touch on him. I have to. I'm going to say that it was all planned that I wear a Wales shirt for this because of Wildshoot. But the truth is, I would be lying. He did play for Cardiff in the English League in 2018, but I didn't know that when I chose this shirt. It's all about color. The colors, I was matching colors. Anyway, Wildshoot last appeared in March 2023 for the national team, so it doesn't seem to be in the picture here. Let's go back and take a quick look at Jaden Turfkruer. And he's 23 years old, been with the Suriname since 2024 with just 2 caps there. He plays for Telstar in the Netherlands and was born in the Netherlands. He got his first appearance, Turfkruer, on the bench in October of 2024 and actually didn't start any games, but he was subbed in for 2 and on the bench for 4 others. So even though he doesn't come into the narrative, he is a possible, maybe almost likely candidate, having been selected for the last 6 matches. Right midfielders, on the other hand, we have no candidates to talk about. So we can move upfield to the attacking midfield. And we have no versatile attackers here, so we'll move on to left attackers. Let's talk about this categorization here because it's one that Soccerfiles has come up with itself, this left attacking position. We make this category because it depends on the formation. It could be an attacking could be an attacking winger, as it is in a 4-4-2 formation, an attacking midfielder, as in the 4-2-3-1 formation, or it could be a left forward in a 4-3-3 formation. So, well, I would say that it oversimplifies things a bit, but it works quite well because we often see players in the position regardless of the formation. So, this left attacking position covers things well. All right, and as we see, it's usually a left attacking midfielder because it's a 4-2-3-1 formation, or else a left attacking winger in a 4-4-2 formation. Let's look at the candidates we have here. And well, we begin with mentioning Jaden Montnor. He's coded as a left winger, which a lot of sources have. In fact, all of these players are coded as left wingers. We would call them left attacking midfielders. Anyway, we've moved Jaden Montnor to right attacking midfielder because all 4 of his starts in this period were on the right side. So that leaves us with our likely candidate, Jamilio Richters, and he's the only one in the likely category. We also have a possible candidate in Virgil Misijan, and then possible but unlikely candidate Dimitri Apai. So again, we'll dispense with his information here. He was in the Gold Cup 2021 squad, appeared only in 1 game as a substitute, and didn't start any games in the recent period and was not selected for the last 6 matches. So again, we'll give more information if he comes back and is selected for the final squad. We have 2 players who are seemingly off the squad. The first one is Diego Biseswar, and he does come into the narrative at the beginning of this period. Diego Biseswar was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup. And again, we didn't mention him at the beginning because he's not really a big name for Suriname, only 15 caps for them. And he last appeared for the national team in September of 2023. So that's during the group stage of the Nations League there. And he's actually coded as an attacking midfielder, but his only starts were in this left attacking position. The other seemingly off the squad candidate is Ivenzo Cornvalius. And I should say Diego Biseswar's name is in grey because he has actually retired from soccer altogether. Ivenzo Convalius is still active at the club level. He was a participant in the 2021 Gold Cup there, subbed into 2 games and went on to start and finish game 3. But has not appeared for the team since September 2022. So well off the team, even though he's not old. Convalius, 28 years old here, but hasn't been called up for quite a while. Let's look at the main candidates then, beginning with likely candidate Jamilio Richters. And he is 26 years old with 17 caps and 4 goals for Suriname since 2022. And he plays for Cavalier FC in Jamaica since 2025, but was 7 years with Robin Hood in Suriname before that. He was actually on the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup, but didn't make it. And over the recent period, Richters has started none of their 17 games from the start of 2023. You may be wondering why he's a likely candidate, and that's because he was subbed in for 7 and on the bench for 7. So just 3 matches that Richters was not called up for. So that's why he's a likely candidate. The possible candidate is Virgil Misajan, and he's 32 years old, but only 9 caps and 2 goals for Suriname since 2024. I think that's the second player we have starting for starting in their 30s. Misajan plays also for Ferencvárosi in Hungary, and he's there since 2024, and he played in Saudi Arabia before that, and then Twente in the Netherlands from 2021 to 23. He was born in the Netherlands, like so many are. And Misajan got his first cap in March of 2024. He started 5 of their remaining 11 games, subbed in for 4, but was not selected for the last 2 matches. And I think I'm going to actually move him up to from possible to likely. We're not sure what's going on with those last 2 matches, but there were quite a few changes. But I think we're going to assume that missing those last 2 matches was not as detrimental to their chances as all of that. So otherwise, he's definitely a likely candidate with that participation. Okay, we can talk about now the narrative of the left attacking position. And it is Diego Biseswar, who made his last start for the national team in the first game there. So that's the last we'll hear of him. In the second September 2023 game, it was Gliofilo Vilcher, the forward, big forward, probably the biggest name for the Suriname team there. He started the second as an attacking midfielder, I believe it was, in September. In the October games, it was left back Javencio van der Koost playing as a left attacking winger in the October games. Both of those were 4-4-2 formations. So Van der Koost making his way all over the field there. Under the new manager, that formation, the 4-4-2 formation and the left attacking winger position continues, but here it's filled by right attacking midfielder Geraldo Becker in the first of the June 2024 World Cup qualifiers, and then Virgil Misajan in the second of those games. For the rest of the games, it's a left attacking midfielder in a 4-2-3-1 formation. And we see Virgil Misajan filling it twice in the 2024 25 Nations League games in September and October. Van der Koost returns for 1, and surprisingly, central defender Shaquille Pinas playing as a left attacking midfielder in the October game. Van der Kust once again takes the position now as an attacking midfielder in the November games, quarterfinal Nations League games against Canada. He plays both of those. But for the March Gold Cup playoff games against Martinique, it is right winger Girano Kirk coming in to play both of those games. So again, very up in the air as to who we can expect starting in the Cup. Over to the right attacking position, we'll look at the candidates, some of whom we've met already. And we have Geraldo Becker as a definite candidate. And we have Jayden Montnor. We mentioned him because he's coded as a left winger. We moved him over here. Jayden Montnor is a likely candidate, as is a player we've just met, Girano Kirk. We saw him playing twice as a left attacking midfielder there. We have two possible candidates as well. Richanel Margaret is the first of those. And the second is Roskello Vlitcher. I'm really never sure how to say that name. For those listening, it's spelled Vlijter. I think it's Vliter, at least to non-Netherlands people. We have two players seemingly off the squad. The first is Florian Josephzoon. And so I'll just briefly cover those players. He was a starter, at least in games 1 and 2 in the 2021 Gold Cup, but didn't appear in game 3. Yes, and he last appeared for the team in October of 2023. And the other one is Leandro Capel, and he is he was not part of the squad. He did not appear after October 2023. That was his last appearance. He does come up in the narrative. So those two, again, will give more details if they make a comeback and make the squad. Okay, let's look at the real candidates, though. Geraldo Becker is the first one and the definite candidate. Becker is 30 years old and has 16 caps and 5 goals for Suriname since 2021 and plays for Real Sociedad in Spain since 2024 and was with Union Berlin in Germany for 5 years before that and in the Netherlands before that. He was born in the Netherlands. So Geraldo Becker was part of the 2021 Gold Cup squad, started games 1 and 2 there, and just subbed into game 3. And he started 10 of the 17 games since the start of 2023. He subbed out for 1. He was out with 2 separate injuries for 4 games, including the last 2 matches, Geraldo Becker, but he has since recovered from that injury. He was not selected for 2 matches during that period. So Geraldo Becker, a definite candidate here, and sometimes plays as a forward, as we'll see. The first of the 2 likely candidates, Jayden Montnor, is coded as a left winger, but we moved him over here because all 4 of his starts were here. He is 23 years old and has been with Suriname just since 2024 with 8 caps and 2 goals. Montnor plays for a team in Cyprus that I am familiar with, that's Aris Limassol, and he played in Austria also before moving or after moving from the Netherlands in 2020. And he was born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap in March 2024, Jayden Montnor, and started 4 of their remaining 11 games, as well as subbing in for 4. And he was also on the bench for 2. That leaves just 1 match that he was not called up for, not selected for. And so that's why we have him as a likely candidate. The other likely candidate is Girano Kirk. He is coded correctly here as a right winger, but we did see him in 2 of his 4 starts, starting as a left attacker there. Girano Kirk is 30 years old and came to the team in 2024, so another 30, maybe he was 29 when he joined. Kirk has 7 caps and 1 goal and plays for Royal Antwerp in Belgium since 2024 and Lokomotiv Moscow in Russia for 3 years before that. And prior to that was in the Netherlands all the way. Girano Kirk got his first cap in June of 2024. He started 4 of their remaining 10 games since the beginning of 2020. Oh, no, well, since his first one. Started 4, subbed in for 3, and on the bench for 1. So 2 matches that he was not selected for. So Girano Kirk, also a likely candidate. We have 2 possible candidates to look at. The first is Richanel Margaret, and he's coded as a forward. We moved him here because his only start was here. He is 25 years old and just joined Suriname in 2025. He only has 2 caps and plays for Walwick in the Netherlands since 2023. So Margaret got his first cap in March of 2025 and started one of those 2 games, as well as subbing in for the other. So again, not with the team that long. Hard to say if he will continue to start. The other possible candidate is Rossello Vleiter, and he is also 25 years old, just like Richanel Margaret. And he has been with the team much longer, though, since 2019, with 13 caps and no goals. He plays for a team in Lithuania, Raiteria, since 2024, and was in Israel and Cyprus before that. He was selected for the preliminary squad. No, he wasn't selected for the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup. But we can see, because he got his first cap in 2019, that he was around at that time. But in the recent period, he started 1 of their 17 games from the start of 2023. This is Rossello Vleiter. So I listened to my own podcast a couple of years after recording them, just to see how it comes across, and decided I should mention names just to keep people oriented more often. That's why I did that. Rossello Vleiter is who we're talking about. Once again, started 1 of their 17 games, subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 3, and not selected for 9 others. But he was on the bench for the last 3 matches. So that may be significant. Okay, those are the candidates for the right attacking position. And now let's look at the position itself in a narrative. So the player who's off the team, seemingly off the team, Florian Josephzoon, started the 2 September games in the fall 2023 Nations League group stage games, but those would be his last for the national team. And then the player who played the October games, Leandro Capel, he started both October games, and they would be his last. So we have 2 players in the September 20 or in the Nations League 2023 games who we're not seeing anymore. Under the new manager, it was Girano Kirk starting the first of the June 2024 World Cup qualifying games, and then Jayden Montnor starting the second. Those 2 also alternated in the September 2024 Nations League group stage games in September. But in October, Geraldo Becker started both games and also started the November quarterfinal games against Canada. So 4 in a row for Geraldo Becker. However, once again, we see changes in March. Montnor returned for the first of those games in March 2025. And then Richanel Margaret got his debut start for the second. Richanel Margaret coded as a forward, but getting his only start here as a right attacker. So again, things very much up in the air as to what to expect for the Cup. Right, we move on. Now we have central attackers now to deal with, and actually they do use this position. I'll just give a little introduction of the position. It actually exists in the 4-4-2 formation. Could be two attacking midfielders. They used that formation in 4 of the first 6 games, but it's actually defensive players filling the role in those. So we treated them as kind of more defensive and central midfielders in that 4-4-2 formation. So it's only in the 4-2-3-1 formation that the position is used, or that we'll talk about here as a central attacking midfield position. But that is for 8 games. So we're also going to add secondary strikers here. We have one player coded as a secondary striker, but he actually lined up as a central attacking midfielder, which is not that much different. So we'll cover both positions, or the candidates for both positions here. Let's begin with our definite central attacking midfielder. That's Emmanuel Ferry. We did see him in central midfield for 1 or 2 games but he is actually an attacking midfielder. The next one is not. It's Justin Lonwijk, and he is a likely candidate. He's coded as a central midfielder, but we've moved him to central attacking midfield because all 7 of his starts have been here. So we're going to consider changing his coding after we see what happens in the Cup. We also have Diego Biseswar, coded as he's coded as an attacking midfielder, but we moved him to a left attacker because his only start had been there. And so finally we have a player seemingly off the squad, Jarone Cherry. Jarone Cherry last appeared for the team in June of 2023. Okay, so really we only have the, we're going to add secondary strikers as well. And the whole reason for this is just because of one player. We'll just add him to the list of secondary strikers. Oh no, there's secondary strikers. He is a likely candidate. It's Denzel Jubitana that we'll be looking at. I'm just going to move that up on the graphic to the midfield. Okay, let's begin with Emmanuel Ferry then, the definite candidate, and he's 24 years old with 9 caps and 1 goal for Suriname since 2024, and he plays for Hamburg in Germany. I'm very impressed by the club affiliations that we're seeing here. Although Hamburg has gone down in status over the last while. Hamburg in Germany since 2023, and Eintracht Braunschweig in Germany before that. In fact, he's been with German teams since 2020 when he joined Borussia Dortmund, which is a very good club affiliation. He was in the Netherlands before that. He's born in the Netherlands, Emmanuel Ferry, and he got his first cap in June of 2024 and started 6 of their remaining 10 games, as well as subbing in for 3. And the other one he was on the bench for, so he's been consistently called up ever since he joined the team. That's Emmanuel Ferry, the definite candidate. The likely candidate, Justin Lonwijk, is 26 years old. He has 7 caps and 2 goals since 2024, so also very new, and is with Dynamo Kiev in Ukraine, another reputable club there, since 2022, although he has been loaned on to Viborg in Denmark, his second stint with them. He's on loan since 2024. Lonwijk was also born in the Netherlands, and he got his first cap in March of 2024 and went on to start 7 of their remaining 11 games, but was not selected for the other 4, including the last 2 matches. So that creates a little bit of doubt in our mind, and that's why we have him as likely rather than definite. Okay, and then the other candidate we'll look at is the secondary striker, Denzel Jubitana, and he is 26 years old with 6 caps and 1 goal since 2024, so another relative newcomer. He plays for Atromitos in Greece since 2023. and sorry, I got distracted there. And was with Heracles in Greece before that, and then in the Netherlands. He was actually, no, he was only with Roda in the Netherlands. He was actually born in Belgium and played most of his youth club and early clubs in Belgium. So he got his first cap in September 2024 and started two of their remaining 8 games to May 2025. Two of their remaining 8 games, as well as subbing in for 4, and was not selected for 2 matches. So that Denzel Jubitana. Okay, well, the weirdest thing just happened. I heard, the little sound signal that you're receiving a text message on my phone, which I thought, well, it won't pick up in the recording. But then my MP3 player just started playing, so I was like hearing voices and didn't know what it was, and I was very distracted talking about Denzel Jubitana there, and couldn't continue until I had turned it off. But anyway, we're back. And we'll finish with our summary of the central attacking position. So again, only in the last 8 games did they use it, and it was central midfielder Justin Lonwijk, who we've moved here, who started the first two of the 2024 Nations League group stage games in September there, and then Emmanuel Ferry in the 2 October games. Lonwijk returned for the November games. Those were the Nations League quarterfinal games against Canada. But then it was secondary striker Denzel Jubitana for both of the March Gold Cup playoff games against Martinique. So once again, we have no idea who among those 3 would start in the Cup. All of them have a pretty even claim there. Okay, let's move on to the forward. That's just one position because we've moved secondary strikers and dealt with that. So let's look at forwards. And I'll just summarize the position, first of all, by saying it's a single striker in most cases. As in the 4-2-3-1 formation that they favor, but they've also used a 4-4-2 early in the period, so that would be 2 strikers. If it's 3 strikers in a 4-4-3-3 formation, we would consider them left and right attacking midfielders. Okay, let's look at the candidates. We have a definite candidate in Gleofilo Vleiter, definite candidate. We have no likely candidate, but 3 possible candidates here. The first is Dylan Vente. Well, we actually had 4, but Richelle Margaret, we moved to right attacker and dealt with him. So the second possible candidate is Tyrone Conrad, and the third is Shaquille Style there. We have one possible but unlikely candidate, Jeremy Hilterman. So let's deal with him. He has not appeared for the last 4 matches there, and he did start 2 of their 17 games. I believe that was before the period we're looking at. As in early 2023. So Jeremy Hilterman, again, will get more information if he does return. Mitchell Tuvrede last appeared for the national team in September 2023, so he does feature in the early part of the narrative here, but he is off the team now. So let's go back to the definite candidate, Gleofilo Vleiter, and he is 26 years old. He's a lot younger than I thought, to be honest. Vleiter has 28 caps and an impressive 15 goals, so scoring in almost half of the games since 2019 for Suriname. And he plays for OFK Belgrade in Serbia, and he's kind of played all over the place. He switches teams pretty quickly: Finland, Cyprus, Israel, to name a few. And An interesting thing about Vleiter is he scored 10 goals in his first 7 games for the national team. So, talking about making a good impression there. Okay, so he was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, was Vleiter, and is a prolific scorer. He has started 12 of their 17 games from the start of 2023, subbed in for 1, on the bench for 3, and not selected for 1 other. So I wouldn't like to be the manager who tells him he's sitting on the bench for a game, but they did that. I believe it was in November 2024. Brought him back immediately because, of course. The first possible candidate is Dylan Vente, and he is 26 years old with 4 caps and no goals since 2024. He plays for Hibernian in Scotland since 2023 and was born in the Netherlands. He got his first cap in September of 2024, but didn't start any of their games. He was subbed in for 4, though, and not selected for 4, including the last 2 matches. So a bit up in the air, or a bit of uncertainty, because he wasn't selected for those March games. The second possible candidate, Tyrone Conrad, was born in, or is 28 years old, with 3 caps and 2 goals since 2024. And he plays for Al Sharjah in the UAE, and was with a team in China before that. So a bit of a globetrotter is Tyrone Conrad. He was born in the Netherlands and got his first cap for Suriname in March 2024. He only started 1 of their remaining 11 games, but he subbed in for 2 and was on the bench for 2. Not selected for 6 matches, though, including the last 2. And finally, we have Shaquille Stein, who is 25 years old, but with no caps for the national team. He plays for Cavalier in Jamaica since 2024, and he got his first appearance on the bench just recently in March 2025, and didn't start either of the 2 games in March there, but was on the bench for both, so pretty much replacing Vente or Conrad, both of whom didn't get selected for that match. Okay, those are our candidates of forward. So by far, Cleo Vleiter, the strongest candidate here, but let's look at the position. Vleiter started the first fall 2023 Nations League game in September, but if you recall, he was a left attacker for the second of those matches, and in his place was Mitchell de Vrede. Mitchell de Vrede started the second match with Vleiter on the left side. That was actually de Vrede's last match for Suriname, at least in this period. And the October games featured 2 forwards in a 4-4-2 formation. So it was Vleiter partnered with right attacking midfielder Geraldo Becker for both of those October games. Under the new manager, the 4-2-2 formation remained, but the players did not. It was central attacking midfielder Justin Lonwijk starting both of those games, partnered by players who just appeared once in the forward wall. So we won't confuse things by naming them here. So it was Lonwijk and an anonymous partner in the 2024 World Cup qualifying games in June. But Cleofilo Vleiter returned, as one might expect, and started all 8 remaining games as the lone forward. So September and October Nations League group stage games, the November quarterfinal game, November 2024 quarterfinal against Canada, and the 2 Gold Cup qualifiers in March 2025, Cleofilo Vleiter. So he's one of the only players on the whole squad who we can really expect to be a starter in the Cup. All right, that brings us to the end of part 2, and we just have a little business to talk about in part 3 here. We'll begin by, let's welcome listeners to part 3 because we're doing a short version with just part 3 here. So new listeners for section 3. So I'll just speak to the new listeners and say, in the full version, we introduced the candidates and their likelihood of making the final squad. And we also summarized each position and who has been occupying it since the 2023 Gold Cup. Okay, and then for those just listening to the short version, you can go to the full version if you want those that information and the justification for the categories we put the players into here. Okay, for those who've listened, it's just going to be a review of the names in the summary, and we're not going to concern ourselves with predicting starters at this point, and in fact that would be very hard to do for Suriname, but we will do in part 2 at least talk about the starters. Let's go back then over the list and go through it. So the manager is Stanley Menzo, and he's in his second stint with Suriname, and he will be leading them through this tournament, or we think he is likely to not lose his position before the tournament. Goalkeepers, we have definite candidate Warner Hahn, and then 2 likely candidates, Etrian Vason and Jonathan Funkel, and then 2 possible candidates, Ishan Court and Janilo Vagel. So 5 candidates there. They'll probably choose 3 goalkeepers. Central defenders, well, usually teams bring 5 or 6, but Suriname doesn't have a lot to choose from here. They have definite candidates Shaquille Pinas, and then 2 likely candidates, Mienti Abena and Stefano Denswell. And we won't talk about candidates at the possible but unlikely level or below unless we have a reason to. In this case, we do want to note that veteran Ryan Donk is off the squad, so we can't expect him in the cup. Left back, we just have 2 definite candidates. That's because we see defenders playing in the midfield quite a bit for Suriname, so they get a lot of starts. Rigiciano Haps is the first one, and Javencio Vanderkust is the second one. Both of those definite candidates to be selected for the final squad. At the right back position, no definite candidates, but 2 likely candidates, Anthony Dijksteel and Liam van Gelderen. And also a possible candidate in Navajo backboard. And we do have a couple of possible but unlikely candidates, but we'll only bring them back in if they're selected for the final squad. We won't confuse things by mentioning the unlikely candidates here. Next, we have, so we move on to the midfield and defensive midfielders. We've recoded, or not recoded, but moved some of the players around depending on where they're actually lining up. So we have a definite candidate in Kenneth Powell here. Whoa, ran out of air there. Kenneth Powell. He's a left. He's coded as a left back, but has been playing in the midfield. He's pretty versatile. He's our definite player. The likely player is coded as a central defender. It's Dion Malone. And then finally, we have a player actually coded as a defensive midfielder. That is possible candidate Silvino Esajas. The central midfielders, again, it's mostly defenders playing in this role, so we have no definite candidate. We have a likely candidate in Renski Adipi and a possible candidate in Doraso Class. Those are all the candidates for defensive and central midfield, but as we said, defenders kind of making up that making up those numbers. We move on to left midfield, a position they don't use that much, but we do have Jaden Turfkruer coded as a left midfielder, and he's just a possible candidate at that level. Right midfielders, we have no candidates, and even when they do use a 4-3-3 formation, it's out of position players filling the role. Let's go to the left attacking role. So depending on the formation, it could be a winger, attacking midfielder, or a forward in a 4-3-3 formation. We created this category of left attackers. We have no definite candidate here, but we have two likely candidates, Jamilio Richters and Virgil Misijan. And that's all we have there, other than players who are unlikely. The right attacker position, we have definite candidate Geraldo Becker. We have two likely candidates, Jaden Montnor, who's actually coded as a left attacker, but has been playing on the right. And the other likely candidate is Giuliano Kirk. And we have two possible candidates as well, Richanel Margaret, who's actually coded as a forward, but got his only start as a right attacker, and the other Roskelov Leiter. Yes, okay. And then we move to central attacking midfield. We have a definite candidate in Emmanuel Ferre and a likely candidate in Justin Lonwijk. And we added to this category a secondary striker, Denjel Jubitana, who is also a likely candidate to make the squad. Finally, we have the forwards, the definite candidate, Cleofilo Leiter, one of the only candidates here who we can safely say we expect to be a starter in the Cup. Again, part 2 will deal with starters. And we have three possible candidates here, Dylan Vente, Tyrone Conrad, and Shaquille Stein. All right, that is the list. Another thing we do in section 3 is we look at injuries to keep an eye on. But fortunately, as of now, Suriname has no injury concerns. There was an injury concern over Geraldo Becker, but he's not on the injured list anymore. So there we have it. And closing thoughts. Well, most of our closing thoughts deal with whether teams will bring their best players to the Cup. But Suriname rarely gets to the Gold Cup, and so I'm sure once they get there, they will be sending their best players. So no real closing thought. Well, maybe one closing thought. They made quite a few changes in the March 2025 games. So all of the patterns that we saw forming under the new manager in 2024 are cast into doubt because of the changes made in 2025. So in part 2, it'll be difficult for us to predict who the starting players will be. But we will do a quick preview of part 2 here. So in part 2, we do focus more on who are going to be the starters. And we're going to do that once we know who the final selection for the squad is, who the preliminary and final selections were. So in part 2, we'll go over the list that we've created here and look at those players. We'll make note of any notable non-selections, any surprise inclusions, any new players, and then if we have any information on injuries, we will also cover that. So that brings us to the end. I hope this helps increase your enjoyment of the 2025 Gold Cup. I know doing it does for me, so I hope listening for watching it does for you. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.